Good evening. Well, it's great to be back in Virginia and on my roads. But I'll tell you, if you don't already know it, Maine is a beautiful place. It's really gorgeous up there. And I guess because it's a time when I'm not paying attention to the compulsive review of public affairs, it was quite relaxing. So I miss it, but I'm glad to be back. We are lucky to have beautiful country here in Virginia. The politics is not always as pretty as nature is, and the people who are in power don't appreciate it. So it's a rear guard action a little bit, preserving what's so gorgeous about Virginia. The talking heads on Sunday I found disappointing. I do not understand why anybody interviews Trump and lets him talk and doesn't mix it up with him. And there are two ways to look at this. One is, don't give him a platform under any circumstance. But if you feel you have to give him a platform, don't give him a platform unless you can meet him. Exchange for exchange, fight for fight. Be able to contradict the lies that he tells with the documents and admissions he's made. And if you can't do that and you can't question him, then don't allow him to talk at all. Meaning don't invite him. Stay away from him. That great American philosopher Clint Eastwood said a man ought to know his limitations. And you have to realize that for those people out there who do not study this the way probably we do, and that is, if you're listening to me and I'm talking about this and you're thinking about it and agreeing or disagreeing, you're in a special class of people, because there are all those other people out there that aren't spending a minute thinking about this. And so if they see and hear Trump talk about something they're uninformed about, and he seems comfortable and articulate and a nice guy, that's all they need. And if you're not able to say, wait a second there, you're lying about that, that's just not the case. How can you say that? That's not true. Maybe you can say that because you lie about everything. And without that kind of conflict, you can't have a relaxed, easygoing conversation, because you have to have Trump talking on your terms. And if you can't do that, then you cannot put on the air and give him a free propaganda boost as he worms his way around the facts to tell lies about what he'll do. Even those who today are excited that he talked about what shall we do about abortion. He says these things to build a bridge to those people who are not with him. And he will reject upon the first breath he would take before he put his hand on the Bible, a sacrilege in and of itself. And he will never do what he says about abortion. And there is no compromise he can make to satisfy those of us who care about women's rights and who see this merely as a method to compromise women and their status and their power and their influence and their position, rightly so, as equal in a nation that won't pass an equal rights amendment. Gave rights to slaves before it would give rights to women. And neither of those should have been an issue at our creation based on our Declaration of Independence. So, this is my beef with media that I support, that it's not enough to have a name of a Republican on the air if you're unable to figure out how to combat the lies that person will tell. And if you can't, then you don't talk to him. Now, you can tape the entire interview, it seems to me, and then you can choose those portions that properly illustrate what's going on. But, these candidates say, oh, no, you took it out of context and you didn't say it and so forth. So what is it? What is it about these flashing baubles that come out of this right-wing nut that makes journalists want to put the guy on the air so they can say they put him on the air and they let him lie and they don't contradict him? In fact, one of them, well, I'm not going to do that. It's more a journalistic policy that has to recognize that we're in a different place, in a different time, with a candidate who's a criminal, who's charged in 4 indictments, was impeached twice, has lost civil cases about his misconduct, and we're treating him as if what? He is a believable person? He is a trustworthy person? Nothing of the sort. So let's take a look at some of the news stories. We have Jeff Clark, who was an acting Attorney General in the Civil Division of the Department of Justice, who was recruited to write a letter to Georgia upon making him the acting Attorney General so that Trump could advance his conspiracy that Georgia's electors were chosen improperly. Now, the acting Attorney General said the Department of Justice employees will walk out if you do this. And Jeffrey Clark is trying to tell the federal court in Georgia that he should be treated as a public official and be tried only in the federal court. And that motion was made today, but old Jeff didn't show up, and the judge said he wasn't going to take an affidavit in support of the position when they're seeking to remove him from the state prosecution with the other 18 defendants in the RICO case brought by Prosecutor Willis. He wanted to be removed to the federal court, hoping the jury would be better, and perhaps, like Meadows before him, that he could convince the court to give him immunity going forward from any prosecution. But the judge wasn't really hearing it, because writing a letter and proposing it as part of a conspiracy to overthrow the government, when the letter encompasses lies about fraud that didn't exist and invokes crazy legal theories that don't pan out. So Jeff Clark had his day in court, but he didn't come ready and he didn't prepare sufficiently to satisfy the requirements by which his case could be removed from state to federal court. And so I suspect in a day, or maybe before we go to bed tonight, the judge, the federal judge, will deny the motion that his case be removed. And I guess they'll appeal it as well. I think that the circuit court, when it sees the removal question, will probably agree with the trial court that has been very careful about looking at whether overturning an election can be part of your public function. And so there we have the burden to transfer from state to federal court was on Jeff Clark, and he failed it. You know, another guy with a great resume, you look at it, he went to the right schools, he clerked, he did all these things, and he turns out to be a schmo. Ambition, I guess. Ambition for what? Is it the ambition when you do so well in terms of your career before you have the job? That is, you do well on tests and essays and write law notes and get a clerkship and so forth. But then at one point you're on your own. And is your objective to achieve a position, no matter how you compromise your soul, your ethics, the law, and the Constitution? And for Jeff Clark, the answer is, you betcha. And he should go to jail for that, and I think he likely will. Now, Sunday, again, if they had Jeff Clark on, would they interview him? Well, I think he's an easier interview. He's not as capable a con man as Trump is a con man. After all, Jeff Clark would have been the tool that Trump would use to have the Department of Justice, by acting Attorney General Jeff Clark, which never happened, writing to the Georgia legislature, telling them, hey, stop the music. But that didn't happen because Trump was more afraid that people would work out of the Justice Department than to do that. But that was an effort in the conspiracy, the RICO conspiracy, which is a conspiracy on steroids in terms of punishment and connection of people involved in a single conspiracy. And so another crook will bite the dust in the sense that his hopes of avoiding the trial in Georgia, well, no hope at all. Now, the notion about how you interview a person. When I was a prosecutor, they said prosecutors weren't so good at cross-examining witnesses. And I did not find that true of the group that I was with. They all seemed to do it very well. And I'm not sure what that was. And, you know, a guy like me who was in an earlier generation, a street kid, always enjoyed arguing and talking and so forth. And how you handle an interrogation or how you handle a witness, I think, fashions itself after your ability to do that. I once had a witness, a very prominent public figure, and I don't want to name him, but I had an angle. It was about, his misconduct. And as we sat at the deposition, we came to a point where he turned the full force, which was substantial, of his person and his character and his voice and his ability to speak to try to intimidate me during my cross-examination. And I had this almost out-of-body experience in which I was so impressed by what he was doing, yet I was watching it and not intimidated by it. I found it, entertaining is not the right word, impressive, I suppose. And then I followed up questions immediately, and he seemed to calm down, and I think it's because it didn't have the effect on me it had had in many circumstances in his life, and I'm sure not the only one that knew how to push back against this fella. Trump's that guy. Trump is that guy, the Goliath, we have to bring down. It's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. He is a toxic menace for the nation and his form of government, and we can't lose sight of that. It's a critically important thing to know. Now, changing thoughts for a moment here. I was upset when Biden interfered with the railroad strike because I thought he chose corporate rights over the workers' rights when he interfered and took away what would have been a powerful argument had they struck in, I believe it was December. And now we have another situation with the United Auto Workers. And they have struck selective locations to squeeze the automakers into seriously considering conditions of work, retirement funds, and pay. And I don't think I have this wrong, but at the starting block, the company is at $20 or $21, and the workers want $36. Now, these numbers are part of 7 or 8 or 10 or 20 items, and however they're modified, that's how you reach or fail to reach an agreement. And more striking will occur at other facilities if they're not doing well at the bargaining table. Now, because of Biden's protestations that he supports unions and supports the working man and woman and wants to help them, he's become suspicious among union leaders, UIW included, because of how he handled the railway strike that didn't happen. And a week or so ago, there was a flap because Biden said he didn't think there'd be a strike, and some people went batshit and pushing back on Biden in the White House, saying, how could you say such a thing? Where did that come from? And then the whispers of bailing out the corporation, but not the workers, also pushes labor the wrong way. Now, in a run-up to a presidential election year, next year, with a Democrat having an uneasy relation with labor, he's got to be very careful, because he's soiled his bona fides with the union, at the least over the question of the railway strike. And so they're watching carefully what they have here. Now, would they like him to come in on the side of labor? Yes. Do they want him to interfere for the corporations? No. So that's something to watch. It's interesting. And why am I criticizing Biden? I'm implicitly advising, in my opinion, how one navigates a very difficult situation. And I don't know if neutrality is the only answer, but that's a better answer than choosing the wrong side or pushing in the wrong direction. Now, there'll be intermediaries, and so there may be well-done ways behind the scenes to help this to work. But that's what that issue is all about. Now, Hunter Biden faces charges, and part of the information against him, they claim, is how he handled his taxes. But he made an agreement with them and went forward and did the things that he thought they agreed to. Then they changed their mind, and now 2 agents have testified publicly about his taxes and things like that. So, Abby Lowell and team have sued those agents because they had no right, given the confidentiality that is assured taxpayers, against public disclosure of their taxes. I think it's a solid argument. How will it be handled in court? I don't know, but it's a serious question, and it may chill further prosecution on that theme. And the other theme, Abby Lowell and others are going to claim, and they haven't talked about Cosby, but you may remember the entire Cosby case in Pennsylvania went away because the court ultimately decided the prosecutor had made a promise, didn't follow up on it, and so dismissed the entire case. Some may say that's wrong. Well, the prosecutor should have been more... Well, the first prosecutor who said, you can go forward with the civil case you have, and we're not interested in prosecuting you. And he did, and then a new prosecutor was elected, came in, and ignored the original promise. Okay, different set of facts, lots of differences between them, but the seminal question was the promise or agreement not to prosecute. And I think that's a valid argument, and I wonder about the Republican-appointed judge. And you know, for years we didn't think about these things, but boy, you get near these political figures and you can't ignore it. Finally, in terms of what I'm thinking about right now, there was a disclosure today, breaking news, I think it was around 4-ish, that there are witnesses, more than one, who can testify, and that Trump created to-do lists for the documents classified that he took from the White House and how they should be removed and so forth. So I haven't seen them. More details will follow. We'll find out if the details live up to the breaking news today. But doesn't it sound like Trump? This guy should be arrested for impersonating a suspect because he's good at being the suspect. On top of it, he says so much publicly and does so much with so many people out of arrogance. There is no way, if there's anything approximating fairness, that he will avoid conviction. And we're going to be in for a hell of a ride. And he doesn't appear to be willing to discuss settlement. And so he's going to crash and burn on the cross of his own making, of a lifetime of lying and cheating and stealing and coercing. And the worst of it is not that he was a failed casino operator who cheated there, but that he tried to cheat and did succeed in many ways, cheating America out of its democracy, compromising the republic, and creating a chill against America that frankly had a more cooperative profile, and a more honest profile, despite its strength and the abuses of its strength that under various leaders the world has witnessed our imperfection. So, I'm glad to be back in Virginia and to be strolling in my cathedral of trees, and I'll probably talk to you again tomorrow. Bye-bye.